voting on the minutes that will have quorum. So welcome, Happy New Year, everybody. Stephanie is going, our new vice chair, yay. Stephanie is going to read our vision and mission.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our Early Learning Board vision is creating a sustainable early learning system that partners with families to ensure that every child is healthy, valued, and successful in school and life. And our mission is to support children's academic and lifelong well-being by directing and supporting the Executive Office on Early Learning for an effective, coordinated, high-quality early learning system from prenatal to kindergarten entry.
Mahalo. Okay, so the announcements that I have are that the 2 documents that we approved last meeting are now in the ELB drive, and then I also included them in the email to the board members. There are no comments on that. I'm going to start the roll call. So Alana,
Here.
are you there? Oh, great. Hi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Kau'i? Kau'i? I saw Kau'i. You're there, yeah.
Aloha, I'm here.
Okay. Cheryl, are you here? Cheryl?
Yes, Happy New Year. I'm here.
Happy New Year. Soma.
Aloha, here.
Okay, great. Happy New Year. Lindsay. Is Lindsay here? Okay, if she comes in, then she can let me know, or one of you guys let me know. Joni?
Here.
Stephanie?
Here.
And I'm here. And our non-voting members are Dana Luca.
Here.
Thank you. Rochelle. Rochelle here yet? No? Okay, how about Phil? Is Phil not on? Okay, let me know if Rochelle or Phil appear. Napua is not able to make today's meeting. And for Steve Schatz is Kim, right? Kim, are you there? Kim Gieb?
Yes, I'm here, Chair.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Matt? Shim.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, mahalo. Okay, so the minutes went out, and thank you to Seisha and Tara for doing the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Any edits? You know, you guys, I thought the last time. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I just was gonna ask that if
Yes.
you know, the note takers, if in the notes they can add the year after the act being referenced. So such as in Act 210 at the bottom of page 3, if we can parenthesize the year of the act, just for future reference, and
Yeah.
for historical clarity.
Okay. Right, because each year it's a different act with the same number.
I believe for our notes for Act 210 should be 2021 in parentheses.
Okay, 2021. Thank you for catching that. Okay. And I thought, because I had on the agenda that I had to share the proposed salary schedule for the EOEL executive director, that Matt had done that with the subcommittee update. You did that, yeah, Matt, at the last meeting?
We presented it, but
Right.
it was
And today
for
we're
discussion only,
right,
and then today it will be the vote
right.
and
So
for further discussion and vote.
okay. So it's not on the minutes. So if we can add that to the minutes, it should be just before, in between the executive director evaluation criteria and then the unfinished business of the harm to students registry. So it should be between those two. And we can put the proposed salary schedule, and it was presented for discussion, and it'll be voted on in January. So we'll put that in. Okay, all right. Any other corrections or edits? No? Okay, I forgot to change that. Hearing none. We'll vote on the minutes. So let me go down the line. Alana,
Aye.
I think I need a, wait, excuse me, let me back up. I think I need a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Can somebody make a motion first?
I move, this is Joni. I move to accept the minutes as amended.
Okay, thank you. And we have a second?
This is Solma. I move to second.
Thank you. Okay, now Alana.
Aye.
Okay, Kaui,
I,
Cheryl,
I,
Asuma.
Hi.
Okay, Lindsay, are you here?
Here, sorry, it's late.
Oh, okay. Okay, great, thank you. Joni,
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Okay, great. So the minutes are passed as amended. Okay, next thing is Yuko. So I will stop sharing and give it over to Yuko.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. I just wanted to also let you know that Jen Chow, our government affairs specialist, is not with us today because she has a meeting at the Capitol for ledge coordinators. So I will do my best to answer any of those types of questions that people have, but I can also pass it on to her. So Happy New Year. So in terms of the roadmap for addressing action item number 1 about the workforce, number 2 about facilities, and number 3 about funding for the system, I wanted to focus in on some new updated numbers that will actually impact and help to adjust everything from workforce demand and facilities, and also the funding for the system. So back in 2023, so actually, I mean, when Act 46 went in 2020, there was already existing EOEL public pre-Ks at that time. There was existing preschool open doors, and of course, all of our community-based providers. And the data really started to be tracked like this once the Lieutenant Governor's Ready Cake initiative kind of came into play. So in 2023, this is what the picture of Hawaii looked like at that time. The blue at the left is how many 3- and 4-year-olds there were, how many were being served by all of the existing programs. There was always this 20% estimated to opt out. So whether people want to choose family, friend, and neighbor care, a lot of these folks also may participate in family child interaction learning programs. And so that's that carved out 20%. And so we were always looking at this unserved keiki portion. And so that's kind of what we've been tracking along with. because the act says by 2027, which is the end of this biennium that we're entering into, we will be able to have served 50% of these currently unserved keiki. And so the way that we got to this 465 classrooms, if that's what you want to call it, is basically dividing that number by 20, and that's how we had this 465, which is what we were striving for in 2023. One of the things that we've always been tracking is looking at births. So there's also there is some in and a lot of out migration too, which is a little bit more difficult to track, but we're trying to figure out how we can factor that in. But right now we're strictly just using Department of Health birth data in Hawaii. And so in 2024, with the addition of ELB pre-K, we also have other sites that are uplifting. We've got, when you look at the patch data, there are still programs that they kind of continue to open, close, but there are still sites that continue to open and increase their capacity to serve students, and also with a decrease in birth. And so you can see back in 23, there were 35,000 3 and 4s. And then 2024, it's down to 33,000. And so, with all of those factors taken into place, we just needed 405 classrooms by 2032 to close that gap. And so the numbers have now been revised for where we sit right now. So again, the births continue to decrease. So I'm going to go back again. So 35,000, 33,000, 31,000. So this is where we sit right now. And so that, of course, including all of the work that everybody is also doing right now to either secure their staff so they can take on their fully licensed enrollment versus their desired capacity with sites like PACT opening up their space, Bezos, military, all these other folks kind of helping to start to contribute to this uplifting of the system. Right now, as it stands, we're looking at 337 classroom goal. And so again, going back to, I'm going to flip back again. When we're looking at our roadmap of how we're supposed to look out and map ourselves out till 2032, these numbers directly will impact the amount of workforce that's going to be needed, the amount of facilities that would be needed, and also the amount of funding and types of funding to support and uplift the system. So this portion that's related to the roadmap was really to talk us through the state of where we actually are right now and where we've come from 2023 to 2024, and now looking at 2025. I had Remy run his numbers, and overall it looks like a decrease of about 122 births year over year. And so we're starting to map out what could that trajectory look like. And again, it's not taking any in and out migration from Hawaii. And so I'm gonna let Ian talk about workforce, and then I'll ask for board and then public comment. So Ian, do you want to talk about this workforce, please?
Good afternoon, all. I'm Ian Okamoto, Workforce Development Specialist with DOEL. I'd like to share an update regarding the Early Childhood Educator Stipend Program. I have preliminary numbers regarding fall 2024, last term. So there were a total of 87 stipend recipients in the fall. There were 20 new recipients with 67 continuing. So that shows an increase actually in comparison to fall 2023, where there were 53 recipients last at that time. So if we look at the breakdown of recipients by program type, so we had 56 recipients coming from the community colleges, and then 8 who were from undergraduate programs. And then 23 actually were in graduate programs in the fall. So did want to just make sure that there's a still note there. This data is not final. These aren't the complete all numbers. And these projected figures are subject to confirmation. So we're going to be getting that very shortly. So hopefully I'll be able to provide confirmed numbers at our next meeting, as well as well, actually, maybe not the next meeting, but I will be providing those numbers as well as completer numbers when we have that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. And so here's where I just wanted to offer an opportunity for the board to ask any questions that you might have about that section.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. Thank you for making those graphics that are really clear. And I think we want to think forward to when unless something magical happens, I'm not sure we're going to meet the workforce. We're going to have the workforce to meet the goals of the act. And that is okay. It's maybe an opportunity to call attention to the fact that there is a workforce shortage. And I know this is across education in general, but it's pretty severe in early childhood. And I think as a board, we need to understand the factors in why we have such a severe shortage. Part of it is, a big part of it is the compensation for people with equivalent degrees. If they're going to DOE, they're going to Kamehameha because they can get a better salary. Whereas when you're in a program that is funded by family tuition, they're not able to charge the amount that would fund the true cost of having the staff with the degrees. So we do, there are efforts, continuing efforts like Ian was talking about, to bring up the number of people in the field. But I think as a board, we have to really talk and make our circles aware of the opportunity in this field, that it's very rewarding. Emotionally, right now, we're working on the compensation part, but it is, we have moved forward. When I started in this field in '79 and I had a bachelor's degree and I was making $700 a month, and I was running a program, a small preschool, 28 children, but it still wasn't anywhere near what I could have made in the DOE. And we've come a long way, because it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It was really bad. I mean, I was living with my dad. So anyway, we have progressed, but we still have a lot of work to do. So I just want to make the board aware that there are many efforts that go into the numbers that Ian is talking about, that go into these numbers that Yuko is sharing. And we all can do our part to help our circles understand, because you guys are all in different kinds of circles, which is really the benefit of this new board, of this new composition of the board. So please take the opportunity to educate yourself, ask questions about these issues so that we can all advocate.
If I could also just add one more piece, because I think somebody had asked the last time about the MUO scholarship. So I just wanted to reiterate about that opportunity. Again, it's a partnership between Kamehameha Schools and Chaminade. It's 150 full scholarships, 50 over the course of 3 years. However, I think what they learned was that sometimes people came in with an associate's already, so they don't need the full, all the years to complete their programming. And from what I understand, the first cohort will be graduating this upcoming year. How many, I'm not really sure of yet, but we do know that MUO is also making positive impact on the workforce as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's right. Thank you. Yeah, Napua could share that, but she's not able to.
I'm gonna come back to sharing my screen again. So for action item number 4, program quality improvement and maintenance, I wanted to bring to everybody's attention and to highlight this accreditation support. And so there was, as you can see on this flyer, there were some informational sessions that were held at the very end of December. However, this is a partnership with all of the entities that you can see below the screen. And basically, you can see if you have any questions, there's an email on the bottom right-hand side, right above where it says HARP and right below NAFCC. And so if you are a provider who is interested in accreditation support and information, please reach out. There's a lot of help that's available right now to help you move through that. So does anybody have any questions about accreditation support? I'll move on to some of our systems updates. So there are 2 reports and the links are in the slide deck, or you can also go to our website. And if you still need help beyond that, I can help you. There are 2 reports that are due to the legislature from EOEL. The first one is a DHS EOEL joint report, and the other one is talking more about EOEL's public pre-K program. And Chair did ask for DHS and EOEL to do a joint sharing on this report in the upcoming board meeting. So I guess I'll hold off on that until then. But if you would like to take a look at all of the work that's been going on in the early learning system, please feel free to take a look at that joint DHS EOEL report. I wanted to say a huge thank you to Jennifer Chow, our new government affairs specialist. She offered a phenomenal training to our office to talk about the entire legislative process. And we had a lot of people from we call it our systems building team, attend and ask all kinds of questions, clarifications, wonderings about what does this mean? What happens at this time? Where can you find calendars? How do you look for testimony? And it was so wonderful because even I am still learning. Prior to stepping in this role, I did not participate in any of this. So it was a steep learning curve for me too. But I'm so grateful for Jen. And then she finished up her teaching to our team on Wednesday by going through the whole budget process. So I know our whole team was so happy and grateful for her to host that training for our office. The other thing I wanted to update the board on is that our EOEL team, so predominantly Jen, myself, and Tara Kester-Vinci, our communications specialist, and Chair Yamashita has also been able to join us on some of our meetings. But so far, we've met with just over 20 legislators in the past 3 months. And we're continuing to schedule additional meetings. Sometimes it can get a little challenging, especially now as things start to ramp up a little bit, but I was really grateful that Jen started reaching out a few months back and that our interactions have been very positive with some really great wonderings for our office as well. I wanted to highlight this document that we've been sharing as we've been having our meetings. And what I really appreciate about this document is that it actually grew from Jen's curiosity and wondering about who is actually like a part of this system and what do they work on and how are we all connected. And it has been very well received by everybody that we've met with. And it's great and also a little surprising that people who have maybe been in the legislature for a long time still are trying to figure out how are all of these pieces put together. And so this is how we decided to lay it out. We have been very clear that it's not all, but it's a lot of the folks that are involved in the early childhood system. On the left side, it's represented visually, and on the right side, it's just represented a different way visually, depending on how you like to see your information. But I did want to ask if you could take a look at this, and I'll just give a moment, because if you see something that needs to be changed or added, or that we might have accidentally left off, we would love to improve this representation, because it's been very, very helpful to the people that we've met with.
Yeah, thank you, Yuko. I think this really helps us. One of the things, the last thing on our agenda is an introduction to mixed delivery, the mixed delivery system. And this is a document that can help us really start to see that. And by mixed delivery, meaning that there are many different funding streams that come into this system. There are many different entities that are part of this system. So it's not only one entity, but it's many entities that we need to collaborate and communicate well together so we can move everything together in a unified manner. So this really helps. Thank you.
Okay, so if anybody sees anything or would like something represented or thinks it needs to be adjusted, feel free to reach out to either Jen, Tara, or I, and we can take a look at your suggestion.
Maybe, Yuko, can you email that document to the board members?
Yes.
Then people could look at it more closely. Thanks.
The other document that we've been passing out is another two-sided document, and it looks like this, and I can also email this out as well. It talks about our mission and our vision on the top left side. And then everything on the left column includes our budget request. So the expansion of pre-K classrooms and the funding of the family child interaction learning programs. I did want to highlight again that the expansion of the pre-K classrooms was included in the governor's budget request, but the family child interaction learning program expansion was not included in the governor's budget request. However, we have, as we've been speaking with people, we have said that we would still like to try to find a way to support the expansion of EOEL supported FCILs. Then we're looking at the statutory changes, again, with the housekeeping measure to delete the early childhood educator special fund that has already sunset and it's no longer, and then also that portion about our early learning board composition, not to rework the whole thing, but to just come into compliance with the Federal Head Start Act. And generally, everybody that we've spoken to said that they would wholeheartedly support those two statutory changes. On the right side, we talk about our EOEL public pre-K programs. We highlight that 90 to 98% of our children fall within the priority categories for enrollment. And you can see the priority categories down below. And then these are the schools that are hosting programs. Sometimes EOEL does receive questions about why do we hold our priority category enrollment for so long? And so I can just refresh everybody on this because it does seem to come up sometimes. So our applications, let's say for the next school year, usually open in March. And so from March all the way through October, we are enrolling families based on priority category and belonging to that homeschool geographic region, and then priority category not belonging to that homeschool geographic region. And EOEL public pre-K is not exclusively for children in priority categories, but we do have a very long and wide lead time for children who are within the priority categories, because that's how we have decided to address our statutory responsibility. After October, if there happens to be any seats left available, then we will consider people who do not meet a priority category. And so if anybody wonders about that, that's how EOEL has our phased enrollment to the partnership with the schools. And so it's priority and belonging to that homeschool, priority and not belonging to that specific school that they're applying to, and then all other interested applicants that do not meet priority categories.
Yuko, this is Joni.
I
So, why can't Wina School in Hilo? So, it's because they're not listed because they don't meet the priority category.
one moment. I'm looking at my list, one moment. So right now, Waiakea Waina does not have an EOEL public pre-K on their campus. And so that's why they are not listed as a school that has an EOEL public pre-K school.
Oh, so their pre-K is on their own?
So right now, the information that I have on Waiakea Waina is that they have a early childhood special education pre-K on their campus. I can check to see if they have any other types of general education pre-K on their campus. But on this one document that I'm looking at, that's what I show. I can get that information to you.
Thank you.
Sure. So the next update is that tomorrow we will be going before the House Finance to offer our budget briefing. And then on January 14th, we will go before the Senate Ways and Means to offer our budget briefing. And we're currently in the process of scheduling our House Education briefing. And so, does anybody have any questions?
Yuko, what is it? Excuse me, this is Kawi. What is it that you folks are going to tomorrow?
So tomorrow is our House Finance budget briefing.
Oh, budget briefing. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really want to thank Yuko and Jen and Tara for the work that they've done and all the meetings that they've held with the legislators. I was able to sit in on just a few, and you know, it really helps build those relationships with the legislators. And sometimes Yuko has to handle some pretty tough questions from people, and so I really appreciated seeing the team in action. And yeah, mahalo for including me when I could.
Can I add a
Yes.
comment as well? Thank you for those visualizations. I think that's really helpful, especially when talking to others. I think that's really valuable to have. I did have a question on the that second one that you had shown with the I just was wondering if there's any way to add when you talked about that application period from March to October, like maybe some of those dates within that as well. I think that would be really helpful to include on the one previous to this one.
That's fine.
Yeah, if there's any way to include that application window. I don't know if it, just my initial thought there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the feedback. And then that's the end of what we have.
Yuko is so good at switching back and forth between sharing screen and not, and I'm not as good. So please bear with me. And I gotta go here. Okay. Okay. So the next issue is, or the next item on the agenda is the proposed salary schedule for the EOEL Executive Director. So I'm going to give it over to Matt.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. So last ELB, I shared the policy recommendation, which proposes a salary increase based on performance, not to exceed 3%, based on other factors, et cetera. So that was, we discussed that and had a chance for questions. And you guys have had a month to think about it. So I am going to make a motion to approve the policy on the performance-based salary adjustment for the executive director as presented to the board on December 12th. And if I could get a second.
I would like to second that motion.
Thank you.
This is Kauai.
Thank you, Kali. And then now it's up to the board for discussion. Any questions or further discussion on? You can check the chat. Oh, looks good.
Okay,
All right. So Chair, it's up to you to take a vote.
okay, okay. We will vote on the proposed salary schedule. So Alana,
Aye.
Kauai,
Kawi, you are muted.
Aye. Kalawai.
Cheryl,
Aye.
thank you. Soma,
Aye.
okay. Lindsay,
Aye.
Joni,
Aye.
and Stephanie.
Aye.
Hey, mahalo, that's passed. Yay, another piece that's passed.
Yes,
And
thank you. Thank you.
yes, yes. And thank you to the governance committee for all that work. The next, oh, do we have any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go on to the next item. Okay, so this one is the bill that's going into the legislature. And what's in the current bill is the proposal, and again, the intent is to come into compliance with the Head Start Act. And so in the current bill, it is adding the Head Start Collaboration Office Director and a representative from Head Start as non-voting members of the board. Another position that is needed or is cited in the Head Start Act is how to include language to include the representative of local providers, because we currently have an early childhood program director, that is Cheryl, as a voting member. So right now we're, as far as this item, we are in compliance. But when Cheryl moves off the board, there is currently not anything in the statute that would assure that we have a representative of local providers. So when we discussed it last time, there was suggestions. Matt had a really good suggestion to include language to include a representative of local providers as an ex officio if no voting member fills that role. Matt, you want to share your ideas on that?
Yeah, I guess I was in administrator mode or legislative mode, but I don't remember any discussion about it, but it was kind of straightforward. We have a member appointed by the governor who fills that role, but if we don't, since we're making some changes to the language of the board composition, I think I suggested just having language to invite invite a member of local early childhood education and development services to serve as an ex officio non-voting member if a current voting member is not filling that role.
Do we have any discussion on that idea? Trying to adjust this. Does that make sense to people?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Every
once in a while, my brain works.
That was a really good idea because another idea, when we discussed it, another idea was to have make sure it's a voting member, but it gets complicated because that kind of opens the door for other entities that are in the early childhood system of systems that were all part of the former board to go, well, how come we're not in it? So this is to be really clear, we are wanting to come in compliance with the Head Start Act because we are the state Early Learning Advisory Council as appointed by the governor for the Head Start Act. So this would be to make sure that we have that representative, and it seems fair to, right now we have Cheryl in that role as a voting member. So giving that flexibility to have it as either a voting member, but if there is no voting member, then it would be an ex officio member. Does anybody foresee any issues or questions that might come up from legislators?
And the great thing about the bill is it'll go through iterations and testimony,
Right.
and we can, if somebody has a better suggestion or a different idea, of course, hopefully they present it as in testimony or, either written or oral testimony at the hearing, and then incorporating changes should not be a problem. Yeah.
So I think the question before us as the board is to be clear on whether we support the language to have a representative of local early childhood education programs as an ex officio if they are not a voting board member. Now, I had some language here somewhere and I can't find my piece of paper here. I think to be clear, and it would help UCO folks if we are really clear on what language we want. And
Chair, I dropped
yeah.
the note. I dropped the note in the chat.
Oh, okay. And of course, I don't know how to get to chat from here, but
So in the chat, it just says the language was the board may invite a member of the local early childhood education and development services to serve as an ex officio non-voting member if no voting member fills that role.
Thank you. Any comments on that? Thank you for putting that in the chat so everyone can see. And I think it would help UCO folks if we're clear on whether we support that language because then it can be introduced at the appropriate time where, in the process to be added to the bill. Does anybody foresee, do you have any questions about that? Does that make sense? What are you guys thinking?
Lindsay, I think it looks good. I don't foresee issues right now.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay.
The lawyers will look
Anybody
at
else?
it and decide that they need to change words and this and that.
Right,
So
right.
it may not end up looking exactly like that, but if everyone understands the intent, that's our first step. And then we just need to make sure as it moves forward that the intent is still the same by the time the
Yes,
bill is almost done.
okay, thank you. So we need to be able to support the intent to come in compliance with the Head Start Act to assure that we have a representative of local providers on the board. Any other comments? I would like to have someone make a motion to support this language, the intent as presented, and the draft language.
Chair,
So we are,
this is Matt. I'll make a motion.
yeah, okay,
I make a motion to for the board to support the intent of the recommended language to include a local early childhood education services member on the board, either as an ex officio non-voting member or that the intent is a current voting member currently fills that role.
mhm.
And the suggested language is in the chat.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Joni. I'll second.
Mahalo. Joni seconded. Any other discussion? Any question? Anybody put anything in the chat? No? Okay, we're gonna vote. So Alana,
Aye.
thank you. Kau'i,
Aye.
okay, Cheryl,
Aye.
Mahalo, Soma,
Aye.
okay, Lindsay,
Aye.
okay, Joni,
Aye.
Stephanie.
Aye.
Okay. Cool, mahalo. Okay, we got that done. You know what? We are, oops. Let me see where I am. Oh, any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none. We have a break of 10 minutes. So what time is it? We'll come back at 2:30. Wow, we're a little ahead. Okay, see you in 10 minutes. Oops. Hey, mahalo. Okay, the next item of business is the update on the harm to students registry. So at the December meeting, DHS board member Dana Luca agreed to check with the DHS Deputy Attorney General regarding the most effective way to have DHS gain access to the registry. So I'm going to give it to Dana to give us an update.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Okay, Hi, everybody. I'm Dana Luca from DHS, Childcare Regulation Program Administrator. So during the 2024 ledge session, when the bill was going through, we submitted testimony to ask for access to the registry, the final findings, and the investigation. And the reason we asked was that we would use the information as part of our background checks process, which would enhance our risk and suitability assessments. DHS has a whole admin rule chapter on background checks and suitability reviews, and we get written consent from the individual to conduct the 9 checks. So it's like state name check, state sex offender registry check, child abuse neglect check, etc. We also collaborate with Child Welfare Services on investigations into allegations of harm, abuse, neglect, and situations when a child has been harmed in childcare facilities. In our background rules check chapter, we also have clear prohibiting offenses that are stated that would result in disqualification from working or volunteering in a childcare facility. And we have criteria when we conduct an assessment for a person's suitability, and we take into account the nature of the incident, when it occurred, there's any patterns of behavior, and any other relevant information and evidence of rehabilitation. So I understand, according to the statute, when somebody is placed on the harm to students registry, this means that there's a final finding of infliction of harm to a student. And there is a definition of what inflicted harm on a student means. So perhaps in the meantime, before the statute can be amended, which we'd have to go through the legislative process to include DHS in that access. DHS can work on adding like attestation by the individual if the individual is on the harm to students registry on our background check consent form. And then we would need to discuss with our AG's office about how, or if it's possible for DOE, EOEL, and HAIS to share the information from the harm to students registry with us, and if it's even allowable. So for now, we're thinking that if EOEL, DOE, and HAIS would be agreeable to, we can meet to discuss how that information could be shared once that consent is given. But we'd also like to see department's procedures and criteria for how it's going to determine to place individuals on that harm to students registry, just because our process is so, it's prescriptive, and we have procedures on how we conduct our background checks. And then just a quick number to give you guys in federal fiscal year 24, which runs from October 1st, 2023 through September 30, 2024, we did close to 8,500 background checks on individuals. So it's a lot of background checks.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my update. I'll turn it back over to you, Elaine.
Okay, so you're saying that you folks would meet to talk about access or next steps, and then I heard you talk about changing the statutes. So is that what will eventually happen? Not this session,
Yeah.
but in future sessions? the statute might need to be changed, but you guys need to meet to talk
Yes.
about it first. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. So, DHS, EOEL, HIS, and HIS, and maybe the person from DOE. Oh, which reminds me, did Phil and Rochelle, either of them join us? Anybody see Phil or Rochelle? No, okay.
Oh, and also charter. Yeah, charter
Oh, and
school.
charter
Okay.
schools, right? And
Yeah.
charter schools. Okay. So it sounds like the next steps would be for you guys to meet, because session is going to be happening and everybody is going to be going out of their minds trying to
Yeah.
track session, legislative session. What if we get an update from you again in May on this issue? Would that give you guys enough time to sneak in a meeting somewhere?
Yeah, I think so. I'll reach out to the different departments to
Okay.
coordinate a meeting.
Okay, great, thank you. So we will, I'll put it on the agenda for May. And Dana will be coordinating, pulling together the different entities to discuss it. Any questions for Dana? Comments?
Dana, this is Joni. I just have a question. You know, you had mentioned that you, I guess in your process,
Mm-hmm.
you asked the applicant for permission to check.
Yes.
Okay, even with the permission, you're not able to get access.
So that would be something that I would need to confirm with not just our AGs, but I think that all the other departments would have to check too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? No? So let's see, any questions from the public? Anybody see anything in chat? Because I can't see. Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the next item, which is actually our last item. We might get out of here early, wow. So we'll see. So this is a proposed policy regarding mixed delivery system. And we started discussing this last meeting and the questions were really helpful because it helped me to see that I have to kind of back up and explain more. So Early Learning Board has supported a mixed delivery system, which supports family choice, but it hasn't been an articulated policy. It has been in the reports and stuff, but not as a policy. So as a policy making board, I think this is one of the first steps that we all need to understand and understand what we're supporting. So the first step is to understand what this means. It is used across the nation. And then what it looks like in Hawaii, because we have a few, you know, we have components that aren't necessarily common across the nation. So today is just an introduction to the term. And I'm using materials from the Early Care and Education Consortium and ECE Advocates. Those are both national entities, and EOEL also has a helpful graphic. So here's, I'm going to go to this. Let me see if I can make this screen. This is from the Early Care and Education Consortium. So a mixed delivery system administers funds across licensed center and family-based childcare programs, Head Start, Early Head Start, public schools, and community-based organizations to ensure access to high quality, affordable options. And to go back to the sheet that UCO shared that they're sharing with legislators, those are only the government associated programs or government sponsored programs. So there is a huge number of community organizations like Kamehameha Schools is a big part of the system, and the many small and larger early childhood education centers. And we have family-child interaction learning. So if we have an appropriately funded mixed delivery system, which draws on the decades of expertise and existing infrastructure, it's the most cost-effective and sustainable solution. And one of our things in our vision is to have a sustainable system to deliver affordable, high-quality early care and education for all. And so well-funded mixed delivery system avoids disruptions to children and families and better facilitates a quality birth to 5 system of early care and learning. So this shows that it supports choice and flexibility for families by ensuring flexible hours and year-round care. So the EOEL classrooms and charter school classrooms and the ones that are run by DOE schools themselves are school year and school hours. So that works for many families, and other families need more hours of care. It prioritizes equitable access and affordability. So there, in early childhood, we have what is has been called the trilemma, which is access, affordability, and quality. And we want to meet all of those, but it's a challenge to meet affordability for families and give providers who are not in state or federally funded systems equitable salaries, because it all falls on the family. And they're at the beginning of their earning scale, they're young families, they can't afford to pay the full cost. So that's why we look at supplementing and being able to support through different funding streams. So a mixed delivery, sorry. Can you guys hear me? Can somebody say yes? Because I don't know if I.
Yes, we can hear you.
You can. Okay, you can hear me? Okay, now I can hear you guys. So, so this again, a well-funded mixed delivery system ensures high quality experiences for children, and it promotes educational continuity. Okay, so children benefit from continuity of experience. It's much easier for a young child if they can stay in the same place all day and not have to, at the end of the school day, move to a different facility because they still need the care. And it leverages, it protects diversity in the provider network, and it leverages essential infrastructure. So the community-based early care and education space is mostly small businesses operated by women and primarily women of color. And these providers currently serve the majority of young children across a range of settings, home and center-based. So these are the advantages. And what we've learned from what's happened in other states, that there are significant negative unintended consequences of limited private participation or a public-only delivery system. So if we look at the DOE, that's really it's not a mixed delivery system, it's a public only delivery system, right? And there are private schools, but it is primarily a public only delivery system. So here are the unintended consequences of a poorly designed system without robust private provider participation. And one of the things I'm wanting us as a board to support is that we support systems that are based on human or user-centered design, that are based on the people who are going to be using the system. So if that doesn't happen, if the system is built only with the people up here and we don't get provider participation, there are unintended consequences. So what happens is 4-year-olds are pulled out of home, faith, and center-based settings. Then those providers lose revenue from reduced enrollment. Then they have to increase prices for infant and toddler care to cover costs. And infant and toddler care is very expensive because by necessity, you have to have a small ratio of infants to adults. And so you need more adults for the number of children. And so it becomes more expensive. And really in Hawaii, most of the infant toddler care, I would say, and Dana, please correct me if I'm wrong, that it's largely in family childcare homes and could be in what is called license exempt care by DHS, which includes family, friend, and neighbor care. License exempt care also includes family child interaction learning programs, the FCILs that Yuko was talking about, because an adult comes with a child, so the facility doesn't have to be licensed. You have a lot of adults there. So parents struggle to find affordable options for the infants and toddlers. And I mean, this is true even now. I'm sure if, I think I saw Carol wear a patch on the, as a participant. I know patch often gets inquiries about infant and toddler care. Providers close if they cannot maintain enrollment at higher prices. I don't know if this has happened here because we don't have public only. We have some expansion with EOEL pre-K classrooms, but they're not looking at taking over what is happening in the community-based program. So I want to make that clear. There is just not enough space on DOE campuses to provide for all the children that need care. And there is an option for school facilities to use other state properties, and that will expand a little, but we will still need to have those community-based providers. And then business owners and educators, many of whom are women, may experience job loss. Lack of care options reduces workforce productivity for parents who cannot find affordable care, which coupled with childcare closures has downstream negative impacts on the economy. So this is what has happened in other places. So this is, for us, a cautionary tale. We don't want to go down this road. So we want to make sure that we, as a board, are really clear on what we are supporting and we understand the overall system. EOEL is doing a lot in starting up new programs, and still that's not, when you looked at when Yuko shared the number of children that are in care, that's EOEL classrooms still are a smaller percentage. The majority of children are in DHS licensed or registered care. So, so in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where free Public pre-K accounts for the vast majority of preschool programming. Costs of early care and education increased 33% overall from 2008 to 2018, with spikes of up to 55% for infants and toddlers. And this is the cost to the families. And from 05 to 08 to 2018, 43% of all licensed early care and education providers closed, which is really sad. And then California and New York City also had cautionary tales. So we can learn, we can learn from what's happened across the nation and make sure that we do our best to avoid these situations. Any questions at this point? I mean, if, at any point, if you have a question or a comment, please just jump in. Okay, let me go back to the slides. Okay, so here's a video that when I tested it earlier, okay, let me get to this site. Oops, wait, gotta go slideshow. Okay, I'm gonna have to turn up my volume.
When it comes to taking legislative action on early childhood, the train has left the station. Policymakers and the public alike have jumped on board. It's our best chance in decades to give American families the support they so desperately need, starting with childcare and universal pre-K. But as the train gathers speed, there's a danger up ahead that could derail everything down the line. It has to do with potential plans to create a free universal pre-K system for 3 and 4-year-olds based primarily in public schools, instead of one built on the mix of options we have now, which includes childcare centers and home-based providers. To understand why this is a danger, you have to start with one very basic idea. Taking care of babies is just a lot of work. That's why states require a ratio of at most 4 children to 1 adult for infant and toddler care. The job doesn't get any easier as kids get older, but it does get less labor intensive. In most states, the teacher to student ratio for preschool is closer to 1 to 10. What that means is if you run a childcare business, you have to charge families more for babies than for preschoolers because you need to pay for more teachers per student. To make this work financially, most providers mix the two, in effect, allowing the older kids to offset the babies and toddlers. But here's the catch. Many proposals for a free public school-based pre-K system, no matter how well-intentioned, would siphon off 3 and 4-year-olds. That would force community providers to do one of 3 things: hike tuition, making parents pay the true cost of infant and toddler care, cut salaries, making already low wages even more unlivable for teachers, or simply give up and go out of business. One thing's for sure, the impact on infant and toddler care in America would be devastating. As if that weren't enough, the shift to school-based pre-K could even make things harder for the very people it's trying to help. Working parents whose childcare needs don't end at 3:30 or take the summer off. In fact, 73% of parents say it would be a better option for them if pre-K were in a childcare program with longer hours. So before the train gets too far down the track, let's be sure we're heading in the right direction. A mixed delivery system that supports high-quality pre-K anywhere childcare is available, not just in schools. Because that's the best way to get where we all want to go. Affordable, accessible, high-quality early care and education for all families.
Okay, just could hear that, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. When I tested it earlier and I turned up the volume and I got my ear blasted. So I had to take out my earbud. But anyway, any questions on that? Any questions on that? Any comments? Does that make sense?
Lindsay, that makes a lot of sense. What would be some of the signs that we may be threatening non-DOE classrooms early on, and what kind of monitoring do we do to look out for those signs?
Thank you. That's a great question. I think we are hearing anecdotal stories of qualified, people with bachelor's degrees going to either EOEL or Kamehameha Schools classrooms, because when those positions open up, they are desirable, but we don't know the exact number. Christina Cox, who allows us generously the use of the Seed Center and has her KCAA preschools, we've been talking a little bit, talking story, and thinking that the shift might be to have more 2-year-olds in programs. But I think it depends on the geographic area, but what information we are gathering, we're just getting anecdotal right now. We don't have solid data. And maybe that could be pulled from the new registry system that Patch has implemented, but that's just been a few months in operation. One of the thoughts is, how do we prepare? So UCO does have a list of, we saw the list of programs that already exist. She'll be developing the list of EOEL classrooms to be opened. And if we can share, maybe one of the things that can be done is to make sure we share that list with those communities so they know that it's coming, and prepare programs for that, for what might be shifting in their community. But yeah, that's a really good question. A lot of anecdotal, but not solid info. And I think in Hawaii, we kind of have the advantage of, we have very limited geographic area. So it's not like there's unlimited expansion available of just physical space. And when you have young children and you want to let them have the gross motor space, be able to play outside, it takes space. And again, publicly funded is just not going to, we're not going to get to all in school base because we just don't have the space. So we kind of have that already in place, but how do we again support the current community-based providers is a good question. Any other?
One thing, this is Kau'i, Elaine. It's really good to remember about Act 46 is that it was created with the child in mind, not anyone else in mind, just the children, 3 and 4-year-olds in mind. And the way it is right now, there's just not enough seats, no matter what, no matter how many private schools open, no matter how many public schools there are, there's just not enough seats right now. And so Act 46 was written so that children would gain an advantage. Every child in Hawaii will have access, whether it be public or private. And so just thinking about that, I mean, I worry about us worrying so much about non-DOE schools. However, they are a part of the system and they are very necessary. We know this, that they're very necessary. We need the private school system. And therefore, this discussion is taking place about mixed delivery. And I think it's such a great proposal to support this. It's the only way we're going to make the system work. And that it's the only way that the children of Hawaii will benefit.
Yes.
is both private and public. But just remembering that the act was written for with children at the forefront of our
Yes.
mindsets.
And that's where we want to keep looking at this from the child and family point of view and what's best for the child and family. And so yes, we have to have a mixed delivery system. Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Hi, Chair. This is Cheryl Kudiamat.
Yeah.
I wanted to give a perspective, I guess, with my two hats as a board member and also as a preschool director for almost 20 years. To be super honest, again, I love the video, but another perspective is what I think the shift may be going to is, you know, how there are private and public schools today. To be super honest, I do see the demographics of our private preschool being, how should I say, okay, for lack of a better word, I apologize if I may seem, you know, but there are some parents who would choose not to go to an EOL preschool because, again, no offense, some of the type of families that may go there. So some do actually choose to come to our private preschool because, again, those are the ones who unfortunately are able to afford, right? You know, private preschool. So, I think you folks know what I'm saying, but you can kind of see that shift in the societal demographics. So to be honest, I see the downfall actually is creating this almost segregation between public and private, you know what I mean? At the preschool level, which I think is unfortunate. I think it should be a little more, you know what I mean, open and at the young age, you know what I mean? Like they're so innocent and they're so young. We shouldn't look, of course, at each other, you know, about money. But again, creating the EOEL preschools, it's unfortunately kind of creating that even at this young age. Because like I said, the demographics that I'm seeing, like at our preschool, are the more affluent families. And then of course, the ones who are able to go to the EOEL preschools, you do have to have a certain income base, yeah? So anyway, I'm just saying that I'm very thankful and blessed to have the staff, you know, stay at our preschool. They want to stay at our preschool because of our philosophy, our type of curriculum, our smaller ratios. So I think if community-based preschools really market, you know, their pluses, right? Their positives, that's essentially what's going to keep them running, you know, and successful. So that's really the business aspect of running any type of business. But again, I just wanted to put that perspective that thankfully, at least right now, knock on wood, I do have some openings at our school, but we are running, you know, enough to manage our operations. But I'm just saying, yeah, just wanted to share with the rest of the board. I do see more of our families, the more affluent ones, and I'm just kind of saddened in a way, but I think that's what the shift with the creation of the EOEL preschools. Yeah, just a little comment, sorry.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
No,
just to share.
No, right, and it's important for us to hear from community programs, so thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board?
No, but well, actually,
yeah.
yes. Just stating a fact that that's why we have private and public schools like Punahou and DOE, right? Kamehameha, Iolani. I mean, that's in place, but that is why Act 46 was created, because not everybody can go to affluent schools. And so I'm grateful that every child in Hawaii will have access to, with the work of this board and the work of Yuko and her team, every child will have access to preschool or early learning. So yeah. Mahalo.
Yeah, so I appreciate hearing these perspectives because it really, to me, shows how we really need that communication we need, there's a big sector of the early learning system that is in the private sector. And so how we make sure that we have that communication, we plan together is really important. So yeah, so I keep thinking about it. I have one more document to share with you. This is one that Yuko and her team put together. Let me see if I can make this. So this is showing the early learning opportunities. Okay, in Hawaii. And there's private, it shows what's privately funded and federal funding sources. And then on this side, on the right is the state funding sources. So if we go private, there's community-based programs, which includes family childcare homes, infant toddler centers, group childcare, and group childcare homes. So just to let you know, there is a category of family childcare homes that falls under the group center regulations. So they can have up to from 7 to 12 children. You know, usually a family childcare home can have only up to 6 children. But if they have infants, they can have fewer because infants take up so much time and care. But there are group childcare homes. There have been a couple on Maui. I'm not sure how many are on other islands, but they can have up to 12 children and they have 2 staff, but they're in a home. So it's kind of an interesting option. Private partnership funded preschool classrooms on DOE campuses. So there are some programs that are on DOE campuses that are not run by EOEL or DOE. Yuko, they're run by, is it PACT or?
So some of those are, we have had funding from community organizations that have funded preschools on DOE campuses. So they'll pay for like a teacher and an aide or what have you, and then the school kind of chips in a little bit on their own, but it's privately funded. So
Okay.
the money comes through EOEL and goes back out to the.
Oh, okay.
There's not like a lot of them.
Okay.
We have had some in the past.
Okay. And then for under federal funding sources, there are multi-generational programs, Department of Defense childcare options. So that's a big one on Oahu, and there's one on Kauai, not on Maui. I don't know if there are any on Hawaii Island. Early Head Start and Head Start. So that's a really big, important component of the federally funded sources. And Department of Health, early intervention services. So this is all the stuff that's under Matt. And his people are the early intervention pieces. So this is for children with special needs up to age 3. And then there's Hawaii DOE early childhood special education and migrant education. And Ephraim has been sharing about the efforts that he's been building on that. And DOE Title I funded pre-K. So Yuko, can you say more about this? It says potential opportunity.
Yeah, so different schools qualify as a Title I eligible school site. If they wanted to use their Title I funds, they could use their Title I funds to open public pre-K on campuses. They're just choosing not to utilize that option at this moment.
Okay.
So, but schools that, because I think that the amount of funding that they do get, they have a lot of need and uses for it outside of pre-K right now. But they could do it if they wanted to.
Okay, thank you. And then for state funded, there are charter schools, EOEL early learning contracts. So
So the
that,
contract, yeah, so in terms of state funded, it's not necessarily giving money, but more of like providing the facility. So that goes along with our pre-plus contracts, or whether it could be our contracts out of state public spaces to host programs. So that would be like a state contribution, you know, in terms of space, rather than paying you know, commercial rent or something like that.
okay.
Mhm.
And then the public pre-K program. I think so this part is what's funded, and well, early learning opportunities. So it kind of gives you an idea of the range by how they're funded. What's important to know is that a lot of federal funding goes to DHS, to Dana's office, the Child Care Program Office, and that funding then goes out as subsidies to family child care, to families who have their children in family child care or in preschools, infant toddler care, and those families choose the program that they want. And then we also have a big infusion of state money in the preschool open doors subsidies that families can apply for those subsidies, and it pays tuition for a community-based program. So in that way, the Lieutenant Governor is trying to working to support not only the expansion of the EOEL classrooms, but working to support the programs that exist through the preschool open doors subsidies to families.
And so could I also highlight, so this, while it talks about funding, primary funding streams, it does not take into account subsidies. So
Right.
It's just programmatic, but not the subsidy portion.
Right. So, you know, you can see that it's kind of a complex picture. Many entities. Any questions or comments?
Can I just make one comment, if possible?
Sure.
I just wanted
Of
to bring
course.
it back to, you know, the bigger picture too, as we're talking about
Yes.
trying to serve families. And that goes back to, you know, the visual of how many children are currently unserved in Hawaii, because they're generally seat for them. So right now there's over 6,000 statewide. So I think if we could kind of just, you know, rally around that visual of over 6,000 children, and could be more possibly, even if their family wanted to, there would be no place for them.
Right.
And so what impacts does that have on families and their ability to stay in Hawaii, to live here, to thrive here? I think that that's one thing that unifies this whole picture is how do we meet the needs of our families and children in Hawaii?
Yes, thank you. Any other comments from the board? Let me go back to. Any comments? Do I have public comments? Any comments from the public about mixed delivery system? Is there anything in the chat that I need to pay attention to, you guys? Can somebody let me know?
I don't see anything.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hearing none from the public. Look, we are done ahead of time. After mix up for all the not enough time. And just to let you know, I have been talking to the to ELEU, which is a consortium of Native Hawaiian programs that offer family-child interaction learning. And they'll be coming to present something to the board in April. And I think, Yuko, I'm wondering if of that 6,000, you know, we can, when we get the numbers, I've asked them for some numbers about how many children their FCILs serve, because I think we can explain when it comes down to it that there are families that choose FCIL rather than a full-time, a full school day or a full work day kind of program, and that it's a viable option for families. And maybe once we get those numbers, that could be, that's taking off some of that 6,000. There are seats. They're not in centers, but they are a viable family choice. So just something that we can start thinking about, because, you know, family child interaction learning programs are something that started in Hawaii, and they have moved to other programs. And really it started, this is because I'm old, I know all this stuff, but it started really in the DOE. Long time ago, the DOE had these Families for Real, Families for REAL was an acronym, and I can't remember what the acronym stood for, but basically it was kind of a little family child interaction learning program, and they were in a couple of schools on Maui. I can't remember if they were in other public schools around the state. And then Kamehameha Preschool started the traveling preschool. And I thought that meant at first that they traveled everywhere, but they traveled to a community-based site, like a rec center, you know, a community center. They set up the whole place, and then they invite families to come and participate. And so different, you know, so it kind of started with that, and then now Partners in Development and In Peace and Keikio Kaana, they all have FCILs, and each one is structured a little bit differently, but it is something that's unique. And I know when I've gone to national meetings, a lot of Indian tribes have been interested in the model, and also interested in Punana Leo. And yeah, maybe we need to get the Punana Leo number. They're counted, most of them I think are counted in the DHS programs. Of Punana Leo, for those of you who might not know, that's the Hawaiian language immersion programs. So those are another part of our system. But anyway, it's food for thought. We'll keep working on this, keep looking at the materials, ask questions, because those questions really inform our discussion and what gets introduced. So I really appreciate it. And thank you again to Christina. Oh, look, I misspelled her name. It's COX, Christina, sorry. So thank you to the Seed Center and Kevin, and I have to put Seisha, the tech support. Thank you. And so today's quote is, "You see a child play." Oh, wait, let me do agenda outcomes. Sorry. What we did, we voted on the minutes and we amended them and voted on them. We approved the salary schedule for the executive director, and we approved the intent for the Head Start collaboration bill language. So thank you for that. And now, quote, "You see a child play. It is so close to seeing an artist paint. For in play, a child says things without uttering a word. You can see how he solves his problems. You can also see what's wrong. Young children especially have enormous creativity, and whatever's in them rises to the surface in free play." And this is why we, as an early educator, really promote learning through play, because that's how young children learn. So thank you very much. We are adjourning at 3:20, and I will see you next month. Aloha.
Aloha.